Good morning, friends, wherever you are, and welcome to today's cichlids and coffee. It was had to put it all together at the last minute here, but I was able to arrive. Let's see here. Let's do a couple minor adjustments before we get going. Hope you're all doing well out there and having a wonderful weekend. Beginning of the weekend. There we go. That's a little better, I think. So how y'all doing? Let's see. Whip gave me a countdown. 1, 3, 2, 1. Glad you're here, Whip. And we've got a couple early birds here. How about a sound and video check? How's the sound and video? Let me have that. Hey, Z-Zip in the house. Hey, Carrie. Good to see you, Carrie. John's in the house. John Yancey and Adam Frankel. Sam Penny. Cruz Aquatics. William Dyer. Angelo Mealy. Got some great folks here. Steve's Aquatics. And, of course, my friend Whip. Hope you're having a good cup of joe wherever you are. I certainly am. Love starting off a Saturday morning with a good cup of coffee. So, how are you folks doing? Let's see. How does it look? How does it sound? Let's get that old sound check. Eric's in the house. Hey, Eric. And Jeremy Moore is here. Glad you love the live streams, Jeremy. GP in the house. AV is great. Thank you, my friend. Salient Aquatics in the house. All right. Fish Ranch is here. And did I miss somebody? Did I get Eric? Cheers to you, Eric. Carlos Manuel Bautista Rivera. What a great name, from Guadalajara, Mexico. Buenos días, amigo. ¿Cómo te encuentras? Muy bien. All right, let's see here. All right. More folks are coming on. Big Tank Hank is in the house. Love these YouTube names. So it's been a pretty uneventful week. It's when you go away and come back, there's things that might have been a little neglected while you were gone. So I've had to do a little bit of work on the changing out things like what are called sump socks, and which is basically the pre-filter. The pre-filter for the sump system is what is called a sock, and that's where the water will pour into this thing that looks like a sock that hangs, and then goes over to my sponges. I had to do some of that maintenance, little vacuuming on the 210, which tends to hold on to a little bit more detritus than the other aquariums because of the pebbles. You know, if I could go back and do that tank again, I probably wouldn't use river rock. I wouldn't use the big round pebbles that I currently have in there. I would probably go more with a sand, maybe a little bit more coarse sand than I would use with the cichlids, the African cichlids. But still, sand would have been probably overall a better choice. And the more I keep a variety of fish, the more I tend to lean towards a sand substrate as the ideal. And certainly, if you want to have plants, if you follow Father Fish, I mean, even he likes sand when it's capping, when it serves as a cap on top of a dirt substrate. So, yeah, I've become more of a believer in a sand substrate. It's very easy to take care of. You don't do much with it. You just need to have maybe a wave maker that kind of blows stuff up a few hours a day that goes into the filters. Maybe once a month, you give it a very light 1/4 inch of a rake, raking on the top just to freshen it up. And it's it grows bacteria in there. And it's just, in my mind, it's kind of ideal. Do you keep sand, or do you keep gravel in your aquarium? Or are you a bare bottom? Are you a bare bottom person? Are you bare bottom right now? So certainly I digress. So let's see here. Why what do I need to do here to get, well, let's just officially start the stream. There you go. It's official now. And let's do a couple plugs here. Be sure to visit my Teespring store, pick up some swag, some Garage Gang stuff like that. You know, other T-shirts like Mess Less, or other things I have there, like T-shirts and hoodies. My Red Tear collection, and other things like that. Be sure to visit the my I finally made it coffee mug. That's my I finally made it coffee mug with the bobblehead. And anyway, there's some cool stuff at the Teespring store. Check it out. Big shout out to my Patreon supporters. And we'll move that logo over here. There we go. And let's see. I haven't updated this, so if there's a new Patreon, if your name isn't on here, don't be mad at me. But a big shout out to those of you who support the channel on a monthly basis and have become Patreons. There is information in the description under the video on how you too can become a Garage Gang member and a Patreon supporter. You folks are very appreciated. Big shout out to my wonderful moderators who help keep the stream family friendly. That's important. All right, so I will be taking up some of your questions as we go along here today, but I do have a short video for you that I will be sharing with you. And who else has come on the stream here? Let's see, MIDI Mac, Andy Teixeira is here, and asking about using Quickcrete as a substrate. I'm kind of a Caribbean Sea guy, but let's see who else is in the house here. Who else arrived when I wasn't looking? Did I say hi to Joe? Joe Adder? Talking about black diamond blasting sand. Now, remember that blasting sand, and we've talked about this before, blasting sand is designed for abrasion. It is designed to be an abrasive. So if you have fish that are scooping up a lot of sand constantly, like your geos and African cichlids and sand divers in particular, you could end up with some abrasions. Now, I have had people tell me I've been using black diamond sand for 1,000 years, never had a problem. So there you go. Hey, Denny in the house, and Edith. ¿Cómo estás, Edith? ¿Cómo te encuentras? Se está volviendo loco ese viejo. Denny, I just asked Edith if you were driving her crazy, and I'm sure she's going to answer yes. So there you go. Let's see here. Demars. What a great name, Demars. My mother used to perform and dance with a Spanish traveling mambo group, and her name was Lamar. That was her stage name, Mary Lamar. Demar, that means of the sea or of the ocean, I believe. Like Lamar means of the ocean as well. Let's see here. Anybody else jump in? Dustin Robley in the house. And he is a gravel and a bare bottom guy. Okay. Dustin Robley. DeMars uses sandy gravel. Yeah, I'm liking sand. You know, there are applications, I guess, maybe where gravel might be recommended. I do use crushed coral. I do use aragonite, things of that nature. I am looking at the chat here as Bill D. Hello, Bill. Bill D. in the house. Hello to you. Jeremy Moore. Okay. M&C Aquatics in the house. Very, very cool. All right. So, what else is new? I keep having a lot of babies in the live bear tank. That's kind of exciting. And I've been using that North Fin. I'll show it to you. I've been using this fry starter from Northfin. It is 250 microns, which I don't know. Is that like 25% of a millimeter? But 250 microns. It's essentially like talc powder, and the little fry just love it. And it's I've got guppies in there that are babies. I've got some mollies, flatties. So they're the babies are all doing great. The baby plecos are hard to see. I think they're hiding during the day a little bit, and I'm just hoping that they haven't been pecked off by the picked off by the betta. I guess it's possible that a betta would go after a small wiggler like that, but I'm still seeing a few of them in there, and I'm hoping that a lot of them are inside the cave, being protected by Mama Pleco, which hangs out on the opening of the cave. So the 90-gallon is doing great. I'll show you all the tanks in a little bit. I am going to feature certain fish in today's live stream that I'll be showing you in a minute. And the 90-gallon, the hole in the head, except for a little scar above the left eye of one of the fish. Everybody else seems completely cleared up, so that's good news. The red tear is out and about and more active than before, so he's becoming a little less shy, not in his cave all the time. The 210, everybody's looking great in there and getting along, which is important. Nobody's killing each other. In the 300 behind me, my one of them, the tangerine tiger, is starting to look the way fish look when they put on age. And when you buy a fish that's fully grown out, you don't know how many years it might have taken to get that cichlid to be 6 inches, 7 inches when you buy them. And what is the lifespan of a cichlid? 5 years, maybe. Certainly in captivity, it might be different. But but he's starting to look a little bit run down. Now, the problem in an African cichlid tank when the fish start to look a little run down is that natural selection, survival of the strongest starts to kick in, and the other fish will start to peck, will start to go after him. And it's kind of so I'm watching for that to make sure that he's not being destroyed when I'm not looking. I don't see anybody actively, any of the fish actively going after him, but he's hanging out in the back, and it looks like it looks like he might be getting into that last part of life where they don't quite look as vibrant. Their surface coloration isn't quite as crisp. And so, again, the other fish are all looking great. I don't see anything spreading in the tank. I don't think it's disease. I think it's you get these fish and you don't know how long they've been around when you get them, especially if you get them fully grown out. And sometimes you do get them and they're in the last quarter or the last third of your life. So you keep them for a couple years and they start to look a little run down. And so I'm hoping he bounces back, but this might be an opportunity or a time to reach out to the sponsor, my new sponsor, Josh. Are you out there, Josh Cunningham? And maybe look at picking up some additional African cichlids. What African cichlids do you think should be added to that aquarium? I mean, I'm thinking, and Josh, if you're around, listen up, and Cunningham Tropicals is a new sponsor for the channel, and Josh is a good guy, and I'm sure he's gonna hook me up when he gets a chance, when he gets some stock in. I'm the fish I would love to add. And by the way, you see that discount down there? That's a special discount for you. Ben.O. That's a letter O. Ben.o 15% off with Cunningham Tropicals. A lot more than just cichlids. He's got everything. Beautiful Cory collection. Just a whole bunch of fish. Go check them out. Cunningham Tropicals. And 10% for dry goods, including his special blend of food and several other things that he offers there. But Josh, if you're listening, I'm thinking I'd like to add perhaps a polystigma. Polystigma. If you can get a hold of a polystigma, maybe add another living stone eye. I would love to get an Autopharynx tetrastigma. Bring a tetrastigma back into the tank. When I was over at Jerry's, and if you're not familiar with Jerry's Fish Room, check it out on YouTube. Jerry Martin, Jerry's Fish Room. And I was over at Jerry's during Aquashella, and I just fell in love again with an Autopharynx tetrastigma. If you're not familiar with that fish, check it out. It is a absolutely beautiful fish. So, Josh, if you're out there, keep an eye out on one of those for me. If you can get a Nimbochromis linni and a Buccochromis notitania, I mean, those are some of the fish that I would like to add to my collection. And any fish that you folks suggest that you think I should add to that African cichlid tank, let me know in the comments. I certainly take your comments seriously. So, Dismiss P, Jimmy P. When I grow up, I want to be just like Ben. All right, you know, I'm gonna pin that comment because it is so funny. Oh, Jimmy P. All right, thank you for that. I guess. Oh, hey, you folks! It seems like you folks like that those last couple videos. I mean, one of them was about everybody just sort of taking a breath. I mean, people get we get too much into chasing some type of ideal out there, some type of image, or maybe some suggestion. You know, we keep bouncing between this suggestion and that suggestion. Like if you have a stable tank, and I've talked about sand, please don't go out and swap out your substrate for sand. You're probably going to create more problems than it's worth. And there are there are folks out there who are chasing certain things, and they get unnecessarily stressed out. So I had one video about that, and I think the other video had to do with somebody that I helped out up in Maine, who got connected with me via Joe over at Glass Cages. Joe reached out to me, said, "Look, this fellow just bought a 350-gallon aquarium. He's got it all ready to go, but he's running into some setbacks." I called him up, and you folks can see the video. Maybe one of the moderators will share the links for those two videos. And boy, oh boy, what a disaster! And I felt so bad for the guy because he's a very nice guy. And hey, you know, we all learn, and some of the lessons are absolutely brutal. And I've certainly had my share of brutal lessons over the years. And for those of you that haven't watched the video, well, I'm not going to spoil it for you. Check it out. And when you see what happened, and when you see what he did and what he didn't do, that led to the die-off of so many great fish, you'll appreciate, you'll appreciate that video. Let's see. GP, spread the word. Yep, that's right. Spread the word about these live streams. Once they post, I think people I think people go to them and they go, "Oh, wait a minute, that's an hour. I really can't spend an hour on that." So they don't quite get the traction of a regular posted video where people look at it and go, "Oh, yeah, I can spare 6 minutes. I can spare 10 minutes," or a short. Right? I've been putting up shorts. People will spend a minute on the channel, and but an hour seems to be a pretty hefty commitment for some folks. So yeah, you got to spread the word about these live streams. That would be appreciated. Jeanette Noswitz, Jeanette Noswitz, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. My 2 cichlids lived for 7 years. I miss my cichlids. What kind of cichlids were those, Jeanette? Were they African? Were they New World? I'd be curious to know. 7 years, that's good. That's good. And did you get them when they were fry? Did you get them when they were really young, like a little 1-incher, 2-incher? I'd like to know how big they were when you first got them. I mean, right now in this tank behind me, I mean, I really can't put anything in there that's under 5 inches, or it might end up in somebody's mouth. Maybe 4 inches. But yeah, it could end up as a snack. So I've got to get them pretty big, and that means that they're aged. You know, they've been around a long time, and sometimes depending on what circumstances they grew up in, the size, the crowdedness of the aquarium, the food and nutrition that was being used, you might have a fish that's 5-6 years old when you get him, even though he's not really super large. Probably a good example would be my Venusis and my albino Oscar. Those 2 Oscars are the same age. I think they might have been born from the same lot, but you know, the same brood, but one of them is the red tiger, and maybe that's just a function of being albino versus a regular, you know, red tiger Oscar, but huge difference in size. But TAW 1970, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Now that right there in the aquarium committee, in the aquarium world, should be gospel. I'm going to go ahead and pin that comment, because you're talking, you're definitely preaching gospel there, my friend. And unfortunately, too many of us are too quick to get in there and mess around too much. Now, I will say, I had to swap out the Expertmatic filter on my hospital tank. For some reason, it started rattling. I think I might need to do maintenance on the impeller and really clean up the impeller. That might quiet it down. But I happen to have a Seachem Shark Pro 500. I had that sitting around, so I put it into the 29-gallon and hospital tank, and it's doing great. It's a great filter. It's not creating so much strong water movement and agitation, which for the 29 was a little much. It had all the hornwort that I have in there pinned up against the wall. So it's working out. Check it out, the Shisei Shark Pro series, which is it reminds me, for those of you who are old Star Trek fans, you remember the Borg? Resistance is futile. I call it the Borg filter. It's a cube, and you have to be real careful when you remove it from an aquarium, because the bottom cube, if you have water in there, the bottom cube will fall off. The magnets are not strong enough to kind of hold it together when it's wet. And if it falls on the ground, it will shatter. Ask me how I know. So, but supported from the bottom when you remove it from the aquarium. But it's a great little filter, very adjustable, and because it uses a lot of magnets to connect, very easy to work on. And it uses a magnet attachment instead of suction cups, which I much prefer when it comes to attaching things to an aquarium. A magnet works way, way better. So it really is an improvement on the old Shark Pro that Shisei was using for years. And they have, I think, a 700 and a 900. The amazing thing about the Shark Pros is that they use like minus watts. I mean, they use like 6 watts. I think the 500 uses 6 watts. I mean, that's nothing compared to the Expertmatic that was in there that was sucking, I think, about 25 watts. So let's say you have to go on to a battery backup because of a power outage. That 6-watt filter is going to run a long time because it just doesn't really use anything, right? As opposed to a 75-watt sump pump, which is gonna suck that uninterrupted power supply. The UPS is gonna suck it down to nothing pretty quick. Thank you, Fish Fam. Fish Fam is saying, don't forget to give a thumbs up if you're enjoying the stream. If you're not enjoying the stream, hey, I'm sorry. All right, so I have a video for you. Let me share this video for you. Go ahead and comment during the video what you think. I might just release it as a standalone video later on the weekend. But tell me what you think as you're watching in the comments. I might just jump into the chat myself. Let's go ahead and take a look at a little video I put together for you. You know, in each of my aquariums, there's a fish that gets a lot of attention, that I feature a lot in my videos, or that I spend a lot of time showing to you or talking about. But also in every one of my main tanks, there's usually a fish that is pretty nice, but gets neglected, doesn't really get the camera time. That could be for a variety of reasons. Sometimes it's because they're camera shy and they're usually hiding when I film, and other times it's just they're just off the radar a little bit. So I want to share with you what I consider to be the most underrated fish in each of my bigger aquariums. Let's go ahead and take a look. Let's start in this 55-gallon planted aquarium, my community tank. It seems like when I talk about this tank, what I talk about the most are the plants. I mean, that seems to be the sort of star of this tank. But if I had to pick a fish that I don't talk about that much in this tank, but a fish that I really enjoy, it's probably going to have to be these lemon tetras. I think these lemon tetras are actually very, very pretty. A little bit of red in the eye, a little bit of black on the anal fin, and the dorsal. Just a pretty lemony color. There are some red-tailed rasboras in there, some red serpas. Rummy noses, of course, are very, very pretty, but I talk about them pretty regularly. Some autos in here, little auto cichlids. There's even a little cherry barb in there. But the lemons are one of the first fish that I added to a community tank, and they've turned out to be actually really, really cool fish. They don't have that craziness that the Buenos Aires tetras seem to have. I keep several of them. They don't really school that much. The rasboras school a lot more, as you can see here. Let's go over to the 90-gallon. And there isn't a very large number of fish in this aquarium. And they all get attention. But I think the CICHLIDS is probably the one that, it's this one here. He's just a beautiful fish. Very light blue in the tail, red with the thread, little trailers on the dorsal fin. The body has those same speckles you'll see in the geos. But CICHLIDS, I talk more about the severums and the geos in this tank. I've been giving a lot of attention to the electric blue Acaras recently. But this CICHLID is just a beautiful specimen of a fish. Not to take away from you, Geo, but I love the blue at the end of the tail, the back of the dorsal fin. Just very, very pretty. Let's go over to the 300-gallon, the African cichlid tank. It seems like I give all of these fish a fair amount of camera time. But I think if I had to pick one that was underrated and maybe not discussed as much, we'd have to go with the Strigatus. This is called a Strigatus. It's the cousin of the eye biter. And he's just a beautiful blue. Amazing egg spots on the anal fin. Beautiful patterns on the dorsal. And just a very cool fish. Tends to be pretty mellow, unlike his cousin, the eye biter, which can have moments of extreme aggression. The Strigatus tends to be pretty mellow and a little bit shy. I give a lot of camera time to that sand diver. And of course the trout, Fusco, have been stars recently. Buccochromis, Spectabilis. But yeah, I'd have to say that the Strigatus, that's just a beautiful fish. Goes back to the corner where he likes to hang out. Doesn't get into it with any of the other fish. All right, let's look at the 210. In the 210, everybody gets a fair share of camera time. I mean, certainly the Salvini spends a lot of time in my lens, as does the Vieja. I've been talking more about the CICHLIDS recently. A little more light on them. Beautiful fish. So I'm not sure who I would pick here. The Oscar gets a lot of attention, a lot of camera time. Honestly, I'd probably have to, well, it's got to be a toss-up between the Firemouth, who I do talk about from time to time, but I think I'd probably have to say that the most neglected or underrated fish in this aquarium is the Jack Dempsey. She's actually a beautiful fish. I had someone come into the fish room the other day and was just sort of shocked at the blue specks, you know, the blue specks around the face, and just was sort of enthralled with the Jack Dempsey. And I was thinking, you know, that JD doesn't really get a lot of attention, despite being a pretty nice fish. Kind of shy. I mean, you can see he's being sort of photobombed by everybody. Grows really slow, a lot like the green tear, just taking his time putting on size. Eventually they do get pretty bulky, but it takes a while. It takes a while before they hit their full adult size. Unlike the Oscar, which, you know, you buy them, you put them in the tank, you go upstairs to get something and come back down, and they're an inch longer. Except the albino. The albino's been a little bit of a slow grower, but definitely the red tiger's been growing like crazy. So there you have it. Those are my choices. What do you think? Did I get them right? Is there a fish that you'd like to see more of, or maybe would like to see a profile? Maybe you'd like to see a profile of a certain fish in this aquarium? Let me know. I'll be happy to consider it. Yeah, Nicaragua gets attention. She's a beautiful fish. Great colors. Likes to get into it with the fire mouth. Love that fire mouth. Love the green in the eye. The pattern on the dorsal fin, that red. Really pretty. As you can see, there are little skirmishes in this tank, but usually nothing major. Thank goodness. So those are my choices. Are those the fish that you would have picked? What do you think? Is there a fish in those tanks that you think should get more camera time, should get more attention, is actually underrated? Comment below, let me know, and share your thoughts. Is there a fish that I'm missing in one of my aquariums that you think would be awesome to have? Let me know as well. I'm always getting ideas from you, my friends. I'm always learning, and we all learn from each other, right? Okay, so that's it for me. Hope to see you on Saturday for the Cichlids and Coffee live stream, every Saturday at 11 a.m. Central Time. And also, if you like the channel, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, hit that bell, and consider supporting on a monthly basis by becoming a Patreon supporter, a member of the Garage Gang. It starts for as little as $3 a month and really helps out. Thank you, my friends. You're the best. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye. There you go. Short and sweet. Hope you enjoyed that. And we'll go ahead and pick up some of your questions. And thank you, Ken. That's nice of you, Ken Johnson. And I'm glad you think so. And I do notice some comments here about gouramis and other fish. Hey, Adam C. Adam C. in the house. Hello, buddy. Good to see you here. So there are certain kinds of fish. I know we see this sometimes with neons, which, by the way, about 5 neons have shown up in my aquarium that I thought they were all gone for some reason, but they were just hiding really well. But there are certain fish which tend to be dying off, and some of the theory is that some of the stock is just weak stock that's coming in from some of the breeders, and of course some of that stock is used to breed locally. So even when you get a fish from a local breeder, because it started with that type of stock, you might end up with a fish that isn't quite that hardy. But let's take a look at some of your questions. And Peas and Haps Forever, I do see your chat, and I wanted to comment on a question that you had on the tetrastigmas. The 2 tetrastigmas who just refused to color up. I've had them in my show tank for over a year now. I think all of us have been through something like that, because when you have African cichlids, the females normally, except with maybe a couple Mabuna, the females are usually drab, and so people try and get males. And when you buy them young, and you kind of take your chances, you think you have a male, and the first thing there's a couple things to look at. I mean, one, are they being intimidated or dominated by other fish in the aquarium? Because if they are, that can affect color. Other things that can affect color, of course, diet and water conditions, which I'm sure you're working on to keep perfect. The other thing that can affect color is the fact that it's just a female, and you might, so check and see if the dorsal pointed or rounded, and is the anal fin pointed or rounded? Because with an autopharynx tetrastigma, at about 1.5 inches, you should start seeing color. You should start seeing some spots on the anal fin, some blue around the face, a nice border showing up on the dorsal fin, sheen, a colorful sheen, a blue-green sheen in the body. they color up pretty early, and that's what makes them kind of spectacular. They blossom. I mean, you can almost like watch them blossoming in front of you. So you either have a subdominant situation, something that they don't like about the water parameters or the diet, or you might have ended up with a couple females. So I'd give it, give it a little more time. Sometimes some are late bloomers. I mean, that is possible. Some do bloom late, but you might have a couple females, and that is possible. I once kept an eye biter, and I once kept a hawk, a Malawi hawk, for a very, very long time, hoping and convinced that it was a male. Turned out to be females. I also had a living stone eye that I thought was a male. And then one day I had living stone eye fry. So it can be frustrating. All right, let's take a look at some of your comments. Let's jump into the chat here. There you go. Let me adjust the way I look on the chat. There we go. That's a little better. All right, let's take a look at what your comments are. If you have a question for me, go ahead and throw it at me. I'll go ahead and cruise down the chat. M&C Aquatics, I actually put a video out on it, on how I will not get electric blue Dempseys anymore, even though a couple people did jump in under that video and say how they had had theirs for a few years, but a lot of folks reported that they had a very short life expectancy and would usually just die off in a tank where all the other fish are doing well. So there was no rhyme or reason. Again, genetics, breeding, the stock quality. I've given up on electric blues. Neons can be extremely fragile. I agree with you on that. And regular Dempseys, it's funny you mentioned that, because my Jack Dempsey, when I first got him, I picked him up from Tom, a fellow that used to own glass cages. He had a bunch of these old aquariums that were in a lot of ways just neglected, full of algae, and sort of between the algae, we saw this little Jack Dempsey, and he gave him to me. And just a rugged fish, would go through periods where he wouldn't be that interested in food, and I'd think, uh-oh, maybe he's going to die on me. And he would just sort of kind of cruise along and maybe peck around at a few things on the substrate, and then he'd start eating aggressively again, and then he'd go through all these different moods, but he's just still there, hanging out. So I agree with you. I think they're a rugged fish. They're a bit of a bulletproof fish. Not so much the green tears. I've had people tell me that their green tears, it was really hard to grow out their green tear. Shamu aquariums. I think that's a good suggestion. The ones I've seen have been a little bit on the expensive side. But roseline sharks, I think the Denison barbs, they are beautiful fish. I love that the stripe, the horizontal stripes on their body, very active. I think they school well, and I think that's a good suggestion. Pick up some little ones, throw them in the planted tank, and then at some point move them over to the 90-gallon. They could probably, once they got close to full size, they could probably go into the 210. I don't think the Oscars would try and eat them if they were full size. But yeah, Denison barbs are beautiful. Congo tetras, I think, are beautiful. Right? Congo. What do you think about some Congo? Pick up some baby Congos, put them in that planted tank, and then move them over to the 90 once they grow out. Are you listening, Josh? Are you out there? You have some Congos in stock? All right. Starry Nights. Zesmus P. Starry Night. I would love to have a Starry Night. And again, another fish that I fell in love with when I was over with Jerry Martin over at Aquashella. I fell in love with his Starry Night. He has a big, beautiful Starry Night living with his African cichlids. Absolutely gorgeous fish. Let's see here. I am going through the chat. Any questions, throw them at me right now. DSGF Ben, my cichlids were described as assorted cichlids. I see that a lot in a lot of aquarium stores. Assorted cichlids. You really don't know what you're going to get. Inexpensive, orange, black, blue, white, most with faint horizontal stripes. How can you identify them? Boy, that without seeing actual photographs, it would be a complete guess. I mean, you'd have to go into a something like a cichlid underscore forum, cichlid_forum.com, something like that, and maybe look for fish that look similar. But when you buy fish like that, DSGF, there's a good chance that a lot of those fish are actually hybrids. And so you might not even find them in a forum or in any kind of a catalog. So, I mean, you could come into the Facebook group, the ben.o.cichlid, ben.o.cichlid on Facebook, and share photographs and see if some folks can help you identify them. And that might help. But who knows? Who knows what you got? I know some people sell groups. I know when James over at the Cichlid Shack, he used to offer like kind of a starter pack, right? I don't know how much it was, 5 or 10 assorted cichlids. And, you know, I guess he would just put his net in there and pick up a dozen fish, right? Bag them up, send them out, and, you know, roll the dice. You'd get a good price on them. And occasionally I've had a fish turn into an absolute. I had one that was back in California. I think it turned out to be like a regal blue, gorgeous fish, absolutely gorgeous. And he was part of one of those assorted, you know, $5 a piece packs like that. But yeah, without seeing photos and without waiting for them to mature a little bit, it's going to be just a complete guess. Let's see here. Sam Penny, I have a video. About, I think it's called The Truth About Plants in a Cichlid Tank. I think that's the name of it. I spent over $100 on very, what are supposed to be good plants, Anubias, big hardy Anubias. And it worked until it didn't work. So once the cichlids put on size, they just tore the plants apart, just completely tore them apart. M&C Aquatics, my Dovai was close to 8 years old when I rehomed him. What'll Dovai will go what, 10 years? 15 years? I know they get huge. Why did you rehome him, M&C? Was he too aggressive? I mean, Dovai are, I mean, I think they can draw blood, right? If they bite your finger. I think if my chocolate cichlid had really held on to my finger, I would have bled. I ended up with a pretty nice little mark on my finger from where one of my chocolates bit me. So they definitely have teeth. And I heard I've heard the Salvini develop some pretty nice teeth too. So at any rate, I'm I'm not going to be having my granddaughter stick her finger in there to feed the fish because she might end up with a traumatic experience. Let's see here. But yeah, I spent some money. I spent some money on plants and African cichlids, and I would say, if you want to find out for yourself, you want to take a chance. This is why I have plastic plants in the tanks behind me. All right, so I'm going through the chat here. DSGF, I will try your Facebook group. Yeah, it's pretty helpful in there. The group doesn't have trolls. We don't allow trolling. If there is a troll, they get blocked pretty quick. So it's safe. It's safe to ask questions. Fish Ranch, it is amazing how big the mouth of a frontosa is. When a frontosa opens their mouth, I mean, the mouth can be like this big, but then when they open it, it goes like, you know, and then it goes, shrinks down again, and then opens. I mean, it's like a, what do you call those jaws? Is it reticulate? What do you call the jaws of a snake that disengage? You know, and it's unbelievable when a frontosa opens its mouth. Fortunately, they're relatively peaceful because they could conceivably get just about any size fish in their mouth. But yeah, I don't think they have much teeth though. Now, interesting thing about frontosa, I think they can live under optimum conditions. I believe they can live 30 years. 30 years. Not like a turtle. Some turtles can live 50 or 100 years, but your frontosa can outlive you if you're pretty old when you buy one. All right. Any questions? Go ahead and throw them at me now. Otherwise, M&C Aquatics, I downsized the fish room due to health reasons. Well, I hope you're feeling better now, M&C. Biggest is a 55. 55s are pretty easy to take care of. Certainly when you put plants in them. I just threw a bunch of the hornwort into my little pleco tank. And I tell you, the plants are doing a lot of the work. And if you get enough plants in there, I really wish I could use plants in my bigger cichlid tank. I mean, I guess I could put them in the sump. I guess I could throw some hornwort into the sump. You know, I might do that. I've got so much hornwort. I might just throw a big handful of it into the first chamber of the sump, because I'm sure it's just sucking up ammonia, sucking up nitrates. It's not going to hurt. The key is I'm going to have some light down there that goes on. So I'll just put a little light down. I have a Phoenix that I can attach to the sump, to the border of the sump, and just have the Phoenix on a timer for maybe 7 or 8 hours a day, so it gets light. But man, that hornwort grows like crazy, and the plants will do the work for you. Between the plants and your cleanup crew and a little bit of filtration, I mean, it really is the optimum, I think, the optimum environment. Whereas with an unplanted rock artificial plant, wood scape, you're really relying on your water changes, your maintenance to do a lot of the heavy lifting, as opposed to having your plants do that. But in some aquariums, you just simply can't do it. I mean, I'm looking at my red tear from here, and he's created a 10-inch deep mound against the front of the aquarium. I mean, he's like, he's moved so much around. It's like unbelievable. Maybe I'll show you. Well, I don't know how practical that would be, but I'll do a walkthrough of the fish room after I'm done with this live stream, and I'll post it over the weekend, and you folks can see just the amount of movement. So if I'd had some plants in there, they'd all be floating up at the top right now. So maybe, unless I had them in some kind of a rock. I mean, Aquarium Co-op sells a base that you can put a plant in that'll keep it from floating, but he'd destroy the leaves anyway, so it wouldn't matter. Whip's World, getting through airport security was a thing this time. Well, it's the holiday season, so I think they're upping security. I forgot to take my belt off, Whip. You know, stupid me, right? I forgot to take my belt off. I went through and I set off I set off an alarm. So I said, oh, I left my belt on. So I said, can I just take my belt off and go through again? And they said no. So I had to get the full pat down. And by the end of it, I mean, I thought we were going to exchange phone numbers, but let's see here. All right. Okay, folks. Well, thank you so much for joining me for this live stream. It was a pleasure having you all here. And if I missed your question, if I missed your super chat, if I missed anything, please forgive me. I don't often look at the chat constantly, but thank you very much for sitting in. And you folks are the best. And I'll see you folks. I'm pretty sure I'll do a live stream this coming weekend after the holiday. However, depending on the schedule, I have 2 kids and a future daughter-in-law flying in. And if they're going to spend the whole weekend here, I might take this coming Saturday off and just spend my time with them. But I'll create some content that I can post instead. So if you don't see me next week, that's what it is. I am taking Thanksgiving weekend off to spend with family that I don't see that often. So I have kids flying in from opposite coasts, and it's going to be a great weekend. All the family in one spot, which is, as you get older as a parent, becomes a little bit more and more rare and more appreciated. So with that being said, thank you, everybody. You're the best. I love you. Thank you for stopping by, and I will see you folks at the next live stream. All right. Bye-bye.